As a PC gamer, few things make me happier than the failure of Epic Games. This company used to be one of the most community-driven and gameplay-focused studios around, and two of the first games that I ever played that really got me into gaming were Gears of War by Epic Games and Unreal Flash. Who remembers this? Please, for the love of God, someone say that you remember this game, because I feel like an insane person that so much of my childhood was with the Flash version of Unreal. I just couldn't resist bringing that up on the off chance that someone knows what this game is. But ever since Fortnite came out, Epic Games has really just solidified their place as the most money-driven and completely uncaring companies ever, and the Epic Games Store is the perfect example of that. It's basically just games for Windows Live, but in a new suit. It's a stupid attempt to try and bring console-style predation to the PC market, and it's just not sticking with PC gamers. I've made a million videos on this topic, and I'm sure that you already understand the issues here that so many PC gamers have with the Epic Games Store, so I won't waste your time on the backstory. If you really want the backstory, or you want my extensive thoughts on the exact issues with EGS, I point you towards this video I made where I go more into detail on that. But in this video that you're watching right now, we've got some juicy numbers to talk about, as well as some juicy doofuses to make fun of, because it's 2024 and there are apparently still people trying to shill for the Epic Games Store. For literally no reason. So the other day, Epic Games revealed their numbers for EGS over 2023, and frankly, they were not good. There were some good numbers in there, but the overall takeaway was extremely bad, and they did their best to sugarcoat it, but I'll explain. So according to Epic themselves, the total number of users increased on the Epic Games Store last year, largely thanks to the popularity of Fortnite. However, revenue generated by third-party content, the store part of Epic Games Store, has actually been going down pretty hard. How hard, you ask? Well, apparently third-party revenue dropped by 13%. Thanks, Fortnite Tracker. But 13% in 2023, a year stacked with great games. That is a huge drop, and boy, oh boy, do you love to see it, gamers in chat. So what can we take away from this? Well, it's really not hard to see what we should take away from this. EGS is a Fortnite launcher, and nothing else. Epic was hoping that they could convince people to buy games on their platform and build their game library there instead of Steam if they were brought to the platform by Fortnite, and honestly, this wasn't even that bad of an idea. But the abundance of issues with EGS have kept that from actually happening. And just to hammer it home, according to Epic themselves, about 33% of the money being brought into EGS last year was third-party games. 2/3 of this entire store's revenue is from Fortnite. Despite the number of active users actually being up by about 40 million people last year, you grew your platform by 40 million people, but the store part of the Epic Games Store is down 13%. That is fucking embarrassing. The actual software of EGS is a joke. It runs like liquid ass, and the game selection is limited and overpriced, and they are sorely lacking basic features that basically every other PC games launcher already has, so genuinely, why would you use this launcher instead of one of those? And in case you think I'm being too harsh here, Epic Games also recently announced their roadmap for EGS across this year, across 2024, and the roadmap for 2024 includes amazing things like an updated friends list, third-party subscriptions, the ability to preload games.
You serious?
Look at this roadmap and tell me why all of these things could not be added all at once in a single update tomorrow. Tell me why changes this small need to be given a full year's roadmap to maybe be implemented this year. And it's not like Epic Games has been completely consistent with EGS roadmaps in the past, so there's a good chance that some of these amazing groundbreaking features won't even come out this year. I also love that in here is dynamic bundle pricing. If you want a prime example of what I mean when I say Epic Games are a complete joke of a company, dynamic bundle pricing is like when you go to a bundle of games or a bundle of DLC on Steam, but you already own some of the stuff in the bundle, so it knocks down the price to accommodate for that. So not only does Epic Games not fucking have that, but now you have to wait until an undisclosed date in 2024 for it to possibly be added. Epic, Tim, why are you surprised that no one wants to use your dog shit service? These numbers from Epic confirm what literally every PC gamer already knew. Nobody fucking likes this platform, and nobody wants to give it money. And it's so disheartening that so many absolutely great games have had their sales hindered on the PC because PC gamers genuinely do not want to use this service. I have been stoked on Witchfire since the first trailer. I've literally been following Witchfire for years. And I don't want to buy it now because I'm not giving Epic my money. Like, I'm just not going to do that. And it's not just Witchfire, it's Alan Wake 2 and Prince of Persia and Dead Island 2. Like, genuinely, how much better do you think these games would have sold if they launched on Steam instead of being exclusive to the Epic Store? I'm not even saying the Epic Store can't exist, but why didn't these games come out on Steam as well? You kneecapped the sales of other artists for no good reason. I hate this. The sooner Epic Games gets the fuck out of the PC market, the sooner everyone will reap the benefits. But of course, this is the current year, and in the current year, there are tons of absolute brainlets who just absolutely refuse to use any amount of critical thinking and will instead just look at Epic Games and take their word for it when they're like, they're doing this to fight the big dastardly monopoly. When that's just blatantly not what's happening. They're blatantly damaging the industry. And also, if Epic Games was actually trying to fight a monopoly, why are they using tactics that are literally more monopolistic than anything Steam has ever employed? But oh, don't worry, we'll dive into that in a minute. So pour yourself some coffee, my friends, and refill your flasks, because it's time for another episode of Joe Makes Fun of People Trying to Defend the Epic Games Store for literally no reason, even though it's objectively detrimental to the entire industry. Shall we begin? Angel quote tweeted the news of the third-party sales being down, says this is great news for PC gamers because it means less third-party games being exclusive to EGS, but then Safi responds, this is bad news. Only enforces a Steam monopoly. That's right, kiddos. If there's a product that literally provides you a better service and you give them their money instead of a different company, that's a monopoly now. Did you know that? I didn't know that because that's not fucking how this works, Safi. You handsome doofus. I understand a lot of people look at things from the surface, like absolute surface value, and then are like, oh, Steam is obviously monopoly because no other big PC game storefront has ever come close to competing with it. But I ask you this, whose fault is that? For Steam to have a monopoly, they would have to be doing things that no one else could do, or like making sure that no one could ever compete with them. It's not that no one can compete with Steam, it's that no one's actually trying to compete with Steam, because the Epic Games Store is not real Steam competition. It does not have any of the things that make Steam good and are not even limited to Steam. Everything that makes Steam good, Epic Games could implement tomorrow, but they won't. It's the same reason that platforms like Uplay and Battle.net, it's the same reason other platforms like that are just not liked by PC gamers, because they don't do the things that made us like Steam, and yet then the companies owning those storefronts will often make snide comments like the stuff Tim Sweeney's been saying about how Steam's bad for the industry. Why does nobody want to use they have a monopoly. No, they don't have a monopoly. You just aren't trying hard enough, so we're not giving you our fucking money. You can't get away with blatantly anti-consumer and blatantly disrespectful stuff like this on the PC like these same companies can on the console. On the console, they can just say, we're doing this and you can fucking deal with it. That doesn't fly on the PC. So naturally, a lot of these companies would rather just tap out of the PC storefront war instead of actually putting effort into things, because they fundamentally don't understand what we want, while Steam does. So obviously, we're going to give Steam our money. This is the definition of monopoly. Steam is literally not a monopoly. Stop going up to bat for companies who are so disrespectful to you. I don't understand. Ronaldo quote tweets Angel and says only PC quote gamers brag about being too lazy to download a free launcher. We're not bragging about doing anything or not doing anything. We're simply saying that we're not giving our money to companies that disrespect us. If it offends you that we have respect for our money and you don't, that's not our problem. Also, this is a matter of consumer respect and consumer disrespect, not a matter of downloading a free launcher. The fact that you are so ignorant to this and so confident about how ignorant you are to it is not a flex. It's the opposite of a flex. It's however you say flex backwards. It's guys, look. In response to the news that publishing on third-party games went down 13%, Noah Sanchez says most indie games released don't sell very much and discoverability is still a big issue, unfortunately. Yes, that's the issue. That's why the sale of third-party games was down 13% on Epic Game Store. It's a discoverability issue, guys. The Epic Game Store is just overflowing with games that people are buying and clogging up the sales charts. It's just... That's why sales are down. Sales are down because it's hard to discover games that you want to buy on the, Shifting gears a little bit, it was also revealed last week because Epic Games absolutely cannot catch a break, and I love it. But I also hate this news because this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. It was revealed that Alan Wake 2, despite being one of the most critically acclaimed games of last year and the fastest selling Remedy game to date, it still hasn't turned a profit, which I can basically guarantee is at least in part due to it not being on Steam. It's definitely partially due to there not being a physical release as well, but I am absolutely positive this game would have sold so much better than it did if it was released on Steam. Like, Alan Wake 2 should have been on Steam. This is what I mean when I say Epic Games is hurting everyone involved. But, of course, there were people who could not accept this at all. John McKinnon says in response to the news about Alan Wake 2 not being profitable yet, when will devs learn the EGS exclusives don't sell on par with Steam? But then Shogun responds, when will y'all buy the game because it's worth buying and not be a fanboy of a digital storefront? It's pretty unreasonable. This goes back to what I said before. If you are incapable of realizing that you are being taken advantage of by a giant company, it's not our fault. And at this point, I'm amazed there are still people trying to do this. We don't want to give money to the storefront for the same reason that we're not going out and buying PlayStations just because we want to play God of War, just because we want to play Spider-Man, you know? And if you're not part of the PC ecosystem, I can understand why this would be hard to kind of wrap your head around. Genuinely, I do understand how this would be difficult because one of them is a free download and the other is a multi-$100 plastic box. But like, we care about this stuff, you know? A lot of people on the PC came over to the PC because we were tired of the stupid business side of the console market. So when that stupid side of the console market starts to show its face in the PC realm, we just don't want to touch it. We don't want to give it money. And if you as a developer or as a publisher are choosing to engage with this as well, that's not because we hate you. We hate your dad, you know? There's tons of really great games on the Epic Games Store. So think about how much we have to hate Epic Games and hate what they're trying to do for us to be willing to wait until games come to Steam or come to other platforms for us to try them. I'll happily buy Alan Wake 2 when it's on Steam. I'll happily buy Witchfire if it ever comes to Steam. I'm planning on buying Dead Island 2 once it drops on Steam later this year. PC gamers are perfectly happy to wait for games to play because we have so many games to play in the meantime. If you don't meet us halfway, it's not our fault for not wanting to give you $70. And by doing so, encourage other companies to start doing the things that we don't like. But then T responds to Shogun and says, this just shows how anti-consumer Steam is. That's right, guys. Steam is the anti-consumer party in this story. Like, really let this sink in. Steam has more users and is making more money than the Epic Games Store for the simple fact that more people have freely chosen to go to Steam. And that means Steam is anti-consumer. Good lord. And just to close this off, speaking of Dead Island 2, I couldn't help but not mention this since I'm making a video about Epic Games. When the news came out that Dead Island 2 is dropping on Steam in April, I made this joke. I thought it was a really funny joke. I thought it was a nice little haha that we could all have together. And for the most part, we did. But then, I'm sure some of you saw this because it was the weirdest thing that's happened to me on Twitter in a while. This doofus named Frodos came in and started just being a dick to everyone. I'll throw the thread up. I won't read the whole thing. I'll just throw the thread and you can see how weird this was. And eventually, after a brief exchange, I let him know my deep, darkest thoughts about him. I called him a doofus.
Oh, Squidward.
To which he responds, coming from a Steam shill, sadly shilling for Steam gives nothing to anyone. That's right, kiddos. Because I made a silly little jokey haha at the expense of the Epic Games Store, the conclusion of this giant pissy thread is that I'm a Steam shill. Which is extra funny because then I clicked on this guy's account and he just spends his days retweeting Steam gift card giveaways. But I mean, that's not surprising, you know? It's not surprising that someone willing to go to bat for the Epic Games Store for literally no reason would also be mass retweeting all those stupid Steam card giveaway Twitter thingies. That just sounds so on brand to me. Grifters gotta grift, you know? Anyways, the Epic Games Store is a fucking joke and I love seeing it fall apart and burn, and I had a closing gag and I forgot it. Like, I for once actually had a closing joke that I was like, that is how I'm going to close my video. That's going to be funny. And I don't remember what it was. That's funny. Toodles.